So I'm going to do a chiropractic adjustment on my wife's horse, Zen Channing, and I'm going to do a couple different chiropractic techniques on her. I'm going to adjust her manually, but I'm going to find out where she's out with applied kinesiology. And as I go, I'll kind of explain how that works. So basically, I'll touch some acupuncture points and challenge my hand. When I say challenge, that's just to see if there's tension in my hand. And so I'm checking her skull, the sutures or cracks in her skull. All of her skulls will expand and contract a couple times a minute. I'll check her temporomandibular joint. So far, all this is good. I can just show you real quick. That tends to have a calming effect on the horse. We can just kind of go down. This is an acupuncture turn, the bladder meridian. That's about 2 to 3 fingers off midline. So I'll see she's a little bit sore as I palpate or touch her with a needle cap around the lumbars. So that gives me a clue that she's obviously out there. I check her occiput and her atlas, which makes up her pole. Okay, so I'll go down through her cervical vertebrae here. She's out right here at C7. And when I say out, that means the vertebrae are just slightly subluxated. So withers, which is second thoracic through the seventh thoracic, are tilted to the left a little bit. And that's pretty common because a lot of people will grab on the horse, hop on the stirrups, so they're pulling on the withers as they're getting on. So it's easy to pull those out. I see that as a common deal. Come down, T18, all the lumbars are out. Her pelvis is tilted up, and you can actually see that. It's called a posterior inferior ilium. So it's tilted up just a little bit like that. So Zen has kicked me before, so I'm just a little careful with her. She's temperamental. Check her shoulders. All right, we're good. And after we're done, I'll give you a quick, brief explanation of how the applied kinesiology works. So what I'm doing here is I'm challenging the vertebrae here. I'll come up here to C7. So C7 is her central nervous system is telling her that C7 is the primary vertebrae that's out, okay? And I'll explain that here in a second. So I'm just going to gently move her head around. There we go. So we popped C7 into place. She licks her lips, kind of that's a submissive, I feel good, everything's okay type gesture by a horse. So, go back. So I'm not putting tons of pressure on the vertebrae itself because I've got a lot of leverage with her neck. So you got to be pretty gentle with these guys, and with just a little bit of force and some speed, you can move the vertebrae quite a bit. So the cool thing about finding the primary vertebrae that's out first is it kind of tricks the central nervous system for about 15 minutes. So it'll relax their muscles, okay? So I go down through here and she's not near as sensitive as she was just a minute ago, okay? You see that? So when I first did that with the needle cap, she really tensed up. So it just makes these vertebrae easier to adjust. So I'll come back. So the vertebrae are tilted this way. So I'm going to tickle Zen's belly. Try not to get kicked. And then I'm going to move her rear end around my shoulder, and it's going to pop the vertebrae back in. Okay? So So I'll go ahead and challenge the muscles again. And and they're even more relaxed than they were after I did primary, okay? So I'm gonna adjust the pelvis now. A lot of times if you've been to a chiropractor, they lay you on your side and pop your leg around and adjust your sacroiliac, that's what I'm doing to Zen, okay? Sacrum, which is attaches to their tailbone, and their ilium, which is a part of their pelvis, makes up the sacroiliac joint. So I'm adjusting that right now. All right, step up or back one step. I'll reach under. Oh, baby. Grab the leg. Whoa. All right. That's that. So our ribs is the last place Zen was at, T2, T3. So I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm going to use her scapula, which is our shoulder blade, to go to hit the transverse process of the vertebrae, and then I'm going to be holding on to the dorsal spinous process. So think of a T in the T-bone steak. That's what I'm dealing with right here. Okay, put this between my legs. Okay. So got it. All right. So Zen's adjusted. She's a happy candidate. So generally we'll watch a move before and we'll watch my lunge line before and after an adjustment. So applied kinesiology. You know how that works? Okay. So basically, what I'm doing with an adjustment, let's say we've got a bone out of place. The vertebrae are mildly subluxated. So there are articulations where two vertebrae come together and they move, just like your knee joint or your elbow or whatever. So they'll just barely be out of place. So when you do that, you're moving them back into place. So there's a joint capsule. The joint in a vertebrae is called a facet, F-A-C-E-T. F-A-C-E-T. So there's the joint capsule around the facet, there's ligaments, but there's also spinal muscles that go down through here. If you get a sore back, you know, it's those little intrinsic muscles in your spine and your lumbars that are generally sore. So what happens is when that bone gets out of joint, it'll impinge on the nerves slightly, and there's a neuron called a nociceptor, which picks up pain. Nociceptors pick up noxious stimuli and they pick up pain. So when I go down there with a needle cap, you'll hit some sore muscles. So, but nociceptor synapse, that means they fire by what's called an action potential. And there's a neurotransmitter, but that there'll be a negative charge on one side and a positive charge on the other. And when a nerve synapses or fires, the neurotransmitter comes across that gradient and it makes the nerve fire. That's what makes your fingers snap. So there's billions of nerve endings synapsing right now. Nociceptors synapse with a negative charge. For a skeletal muscle to strengthen, it's with a positive charge. So when you hit a nociceptor, your hand goes weak. Or if anybody's ever had applied kinesiology done, you'll touch a point, and that's why your skeletal muscles, your deltoid, can't fire. So when you adjust a horse, there's neurons called mechanoreceptors that tell you where you're at in space. The way God wired us, there's billions of mechanoreceptors because we've got to feel where we're at in gravity all the time, okay? So when you adjust the animal, the mechanoreceptors fire.